Good afternoon. We welcome you to this remembrance of the life of Junia Jenkins. Thank you so much for gathering to remember together. I'm the Reverend Mary Geer, Minister for the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm joined today by Troy Fisher, OUUC's Music Director, and thank you to Jocelyn for the tech support today. This service is different and yet the same. It's the same because it is a tradition as old as humanity to gather and grieve when a person dies. And it is different because we are streaming the service today, and some of us are in different physical places gathering virtually for the health and safety of all of us. You can see who's here on the screen. We are grateful to all that are here, however it is that you have arrived. It is the practice of this congregation to light a chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. May the cup be a symbol of our community of love, the flame a symbol of the life that is in each of us and that lives on. If you are online and have a candle or a chalice you'd like to light, please join me as we light them together. May this light remind us that the light of the divine, of the sacred, of the holy shines in each of us. May the warmth remind us that love connects us to one another and holds us all. And may the flame remind us that transformation is possible, from grief to healing, from memory to wholeness, from loss to love. Thank you for offering the gift of your presence today. It matters that you are here, however you are here. May this be a time and a place for each one of us to experience the spirit of love and healing. We gather together today to mourn the death of Junia Elizabeth Jenkins. Junia was a complex person who lived a difficult life. She was a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, wife, friend, co-worker, and neighbor. We especially hold Junia's family in love today. This is a time for us to acknowledge all of our feelings together so that we can have the mutual support that we all need. When we are experiencing grief, we are more open and able to express our true love for one another. And that is a blessing not to be ignored. Every one of us here is acquainted with the grief that loss brings, and so we feel compassion for those who feel this loss most keenly today. Let this also be a time to reflect upon the deeper meanings and purposes of our own lives. All of the great religious traditions invite us to look beyond mere surfaces and become aware of deeper, constant truths in the ever-flowing river of life that transcends the seeming finality of death. May we be open to this wisdom today. At a time such as this, it is customary to tell the story of a person's life. Even when we know a person, we rarely know all the stories of their life. And I did not know Junia, so this story is pieced together from listening to others tell the story, the parts of Junia's life. There are many stories. Some we know, and some we don't. What I will tell is just one story. Junia Elizabeth Jenkins was born on November 14th, 1932, in Richards, Colorado. Junia's father, Thomas Jenkins, was a sharecropper, and her mother, Elise, was a kindergarten teacher. They farmed land that they eventually bought and built a house on. Junia was the oldest of 9 children, so she was a caregiver for her younger siblings from early on in her life, a role that continued through her early adult years. This was a poor but hard-working family that suffered many challenges that shaped Junia's life. Junia was smart, ambitious, and excelled in school, especially good in the sciences. Although she earned a scholarship to college, her parents did not want her to attend. So she fought for the right to do so. She attended the University of Colorado at Boulder, supporting herself by taking in ironing for her room and board, and doing other odd jobs like putting cigarettes in boxes. She helped support her family and siblings by sending money back home. She graduated with a degree in chemistry, and it was in chemistry classes that she met her future husband, David Teets. Junia and David married in 1954 and had 4 children together: Cheryl, Sean, Mary, and Peter. To begin their marriage, they lived in Hawaii, where David served in the Navy, which is where Cheryl was born. They moved to Illinois, where David received his PhD in biochemistry. And while in Illinois, they grew their family, welcoming Sean, Mary, and Peter. David moved the family to Shelton to take a position in a chemical plant there, and then the family of 6 moved to Olympia, where they lived through David and Junia's separation and divorce in 1967. Junia was a single parent for several years, working with the Thurston County Health Department laboratory and blood bank. She met her second husband, Tim O'Halloran, while working in the Providence St. Peter Hospital lab. They married in 1969, and Tanya was born the next year. It was during that time that Junia found the Unitarian Fellowship of Olympia, when this congregation was in the Little White Church in Tumwater. Tanya remembers helping with garage sales to benefit the fellowship. Linda Witcher remembers school friendships with Cheryl and Peter, and that Junia shared her love with so many of the youth. Emily Ray remembers that Brian Coyne taught Cheryl, Sean, and Peter in children's religious education. Junia was a supporter of the small lay-led fellowship and decided to move on when the fellowship voted to try working with a minister. I am honored that Junia wanted to be remembered in this community as she is remembered by several people here. And the irony does not escape me. I am officiating at this service to remember Junia as the latest in a long line of ministers that have served OUUC. While Junia sought love and companionship Marriage with Tim was hard in many ways, hard on Junia and hard on her children. When Junia divorced Tim in 1980, she moved with Tanya to Spokane to begin a new life. Junia was single for the rest of her life, devoted to the safety of her family, her career, and community service. Junia had a long and successful career working for the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services for over 30 years. She served in many roles, including helping to process claims for the Social Security insurance, and she ended her career as an administrative law judge for the Office of Disability Insurance. Her logical and analytic scientific mind served her well in these roles. When she retired in 2004 at the age of 72, she was asked to come back to do some work for the state just a few years later. She valued her work and was valued in return. Tanya describes her mom as dedicated to ways of giving back, naming so many ways that Junia did so. She hosted people getting out of prison to give them a second chance. She used her sewing skills to make costumes for the Spokane Civic Theater, collected blankets, clothing, and diapers, and made kitty dolls for children served by the Vanessa B. Han Crisis Nursery. She volunteered in Tanya's son's classroom, and later in life donated money to the causes that she believed in. Tanya saw this as the hippie part of her mom when Tanya was young, but later realized that giving back was just part of who Junia was in her life. Junia's children remember her as a lover of the ocean, and they placed some of her ashes in the water at the beach near Seaside this Mother's Day. They remember Christmas dinners of Chinese food lovingly made from scratch, requiring days of preparation. They remember their mom loving Irish and Scottish ballads, slow and sad, songs telling stories of the complexity of life. About 12 years ago, Junia suffered a fall in her garden, hitting her head on the way down. This accident resulted in a head injury that impacted her ability to drive and so limited her life in so many ways. Last fall, shortly before Thanksgiving, she fell again. And once released from the hospital, she moved to a rehabilitation center where her condition worsened, and after a short stay in the hospital again, she was discharged home with hospice services. Her children all worked together to care for her, with her son, Sean, taking on the responsibilities of the primary caregiver. Junia died peacefully in her home in Spokane on March 5th, 2022, at the age of 89. Junia was preceded in death by 5 of her siblings and both of her ex-husbands. She leaves behind 3 siblings, Rita, Barbara, and Gwen. Her 5 children, Cheryl, Sean, Mary, Peter, and Tanya. 6 grandchildren, Brittany, David, Garrett, Megan, Claire, and Sean, and 4 great-grandchildren, Harper, Grayson, Sophie, and Oscar. Junia leaves a legacy in the form of her work on behalf of those less fortunate. She leaves a legacy in the form of her family. Junia had a hard life from the beginning. and she was smart with a strong drive for something better. She did the best that she could, and while it may not have been everything that her family needed, she offered what she could with all of her heart. On this day, we honor Junia and her life as we ponder the complexity of all life. Junia, as you return to the mystery from which we come, may your spirit be at peace. Junia's youngest daughter, Tanya, asked for these words to be read today. Tanya writes, "One of my earliest memories is going to the ballet with Mom. I remember the beauty and talent of the dancers was mesmerizing. When the main character died at the end, I broke down sobbing, and Mom held me while I cried. I was only about 4 years old, and Mom didn't expect me to understand the story that was told solely by dance and music. After that outing, she continued to take me to art exhibits, plays, and on other magical adventures, like walking in the falling petals of the cherry blossoms that I called pink snow. She often told me that life would always have challenges to overcome, and no matter how bad you might feel, you have to take time to stop and appreciate the beauty in the world. She would tell me that if you allow yourself to soak in the good, even in the toughest times, you will be okay." Mom shaped my perspective on life, on those adventures we took together. I remember as my son was growing up, I would tell him that it was okay to have bad days, that in fact we need them to remind us to appreciate the good days. Mom loved flowers, and she had several varieties of iris which she loved so much that she moved them from our yard in Olympia to every house she lived in. Now, as the iris she gave me begins to bloom in my garden, I am reminded to stop and soak in the colors and sweet scents. Her lesson to cherish the beauty in the world is not forgotten. I know there will be so many things that remind me of her, of all that she taught me and how much she loved me. And just like that ballet so many years ago, the beauty will be intertwined with sorrow and grief because she is not here with me any longer. For now, those moments bring me to tears, and I wish she was here to hold me while I cry. But someday, I will see a beautiful painting or be in awe of some wonder of nature and smile as I think of how much she would have loved it. And I will feel comfort knowing that her love lives on in my heart. Sean?
My grandmother influenced my life much in the same way she influenced my mother's, given that the two of them raised me together for a lot of my younger years. Much like how she took my mother to the theater, she did the same with me and helped to spark my passion for the performing arts. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't be as outgoing as I am and able to stand here in front of people and talk to you all about how much she meant to all of us. Along with giving me a love for acting, she inspired me to look for the value in things that other people might not. She consistently took me to look at rummage sales, garage sales, and yard sales, picking through people's collections of knickknacks and various things, sometimes having to avoid wasps and many other bugs. But most children would have been turned off by the idea of hand-me-downs or secondhand things, but it taught me to see something in everything and to find value and beauty in the things that we keep. I can't take back the time that I didn't spend or the time that I took for granted, but I can be thankful for the time that she did give me and the lessons that she imparted with me. Thank you, Grandma. I love you and I'll miss you, as we all will.
Thank you, Sean. And is Jeff Barge here to speak? No? Okay. All right. So then let's have some music, Troy. There are many stories and memories of Junia with us here today. We make time to hear some of them now. For those who are online, I invite anyone who wishes to share a quality or a brief memory about Junia that you will always remember. You can write that in the chat and we'll share it with the family and show it on the screen here. For those present in the sanctuary, if you have a story that you would like to share, I will invite you to come forward to share it. We'll begin with any members of Junia's family who might wish to speak. And now any members of the community who might wish to come forward and share a memory.
I'm Emily Ray, and I got acquainted with Junia in about 1968 or 69. I think the marriage with David Tietz was coming to a close about then. And as it happened, my boy Josh and Peter were close in age, so pretty soon They were going back and forth to each other's house, and every now and then, Josh would spend the night over there. We probably had Peter at our house too. And as it turned out, the boys had a lot of the same talents in life with math and so forth. Anyway, my memory of Junia is how busy she always was. She was always in motion, digging in the yard, cooking, and I feel fortunate to have experienced some really fine meals at her table. Somehow she was able to, in short order, throw on a wonderful dinner or breakfast. And in fact, one time I arrived at maybe breakfast time, late breakfast, and she invited me to join them because Josh was over there. And I cut Josh's pancakes up, and she hooted. Imagine, the O'Halloran Dietz kids, they knew how to cut their pancakes, very young. And after that, I never cut his pancakes again. She taught those kids such resilience and independence. And they lived on Capitol Way, and if you drove up and down Capitol Way any times, certain hours of the day, there would be these long-legged blonde kids running full tilt between high school or middle school and home. And I know that a couple of them, at least Mary, ended up using that as a career attribute in track in the Army, was it, I guess? So anyway, she every now and then would take a breather, and I remember sitting in an alcove in the house. There were plants she had trained all around this window, and she would sit every now and then and have a really good conversation. I was always struck with how smart she was and how generous she was at the same time.
Thank you for your remembrances. Tanya put together a slideshow of pictures from Junia's life. We'll see that now. Would you please join me in a time of prayer and reflection with these words adapted from the Reverend Joel Miller. Spirit of life and love, under the vast spiral of time and space, surrounded by the simple blessings of a community of care and love, we carry these memories of Junia back with us to our lives in this world. We pray, grant us strength, wisdom, and thanksgiving. Give us strength to speak of our lives, so that each day yet to come we find more compassion, more understanding, more of the loving kindness that fills the world with joy and laughter. Give us courage to cherish one another, so that we use our lives to heal instead of forget, and lead ourselves to the possibility of forgiveness instead of defiance. And we give thanks this day for Junia. Her memory lives on in the great spirit of life that surrounds us all. We have celebrated the cycles of life in which we find ourselves, celebrating life at its beginning and its end, both always present among us. Spirit of love and life, remind us to love life fully, as fully as we are able. Remind us to treasure our friends and families as they treasured their friends and families. As we bid Junia farewell, the gifts she gave in her life cannot be ungiven. We celebrate her life and those gifts. Amen, and blessed be. Death can crack our hearts wide open, and Junia's death is no different. May we let the light of love and life shine through us. Junia leaves behind her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Each of you is a blessing to this world. At such a moment as this, may we remember that we do not begin when we are born. Our origin goes back far beyond this to the beginning of all things. Our biography is the story of the sun and of the earth, of our parents, our grandparents, and beyond our family to all life. And we do not end when we come to die. We are part of all that will ever be. Something eternal is revealed in everything, and our individual lives are pieces of the mosaic of all life. For the gift of Junia's life, and for this great gift of life and being, of birth and death, of beauty and love, may we be deeply grateful. Let's extinguish our chalice with these words from Wendell Berry. She goes free of the earth. The sun of her last day sets clear in the sweetness of her liberty. The earth recovers from her dying, the hallow of her life remaining in all her death leaves. Radiances know her. Grown lighter than breath, she is set free in our remembering. Grown brighter than vision, she goes dark into the life of the hill that holds her presence and holds her peace. She is hidden among all that is and cannot be lost. Thank you for your presence here today. For those who are online, we'll keep the Zoom room open for you so you can chat and share memories of Junia if you wish. For those here in the sanctuary, we'll move to the columbarium now to inter Junia's ashes. We'll record the interment and have the link to access it available later today. All are welcome to share in this sacred ceremony. If you head out these doors and go that way, you'll see the canopy and the chairs, and I'll meet you there. Thank you.